Dear listeners, there's a version of you that still remembers how to feel deeply, trust fully, and love without conditions. But somewhere along the way, life taught you to protect, to suppress, to move on without truly healing. So, what if healing is not about fixing yourself, but returning to that part of you that was never broken? Welcome back to another powerful episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life, where we explore what it truly means to live with awareness, resilience, and emotional clarity. And today I'm joined by someone who beautifully bridges two worlds that are often seen as separate, the clinical and the sacred. So please welcome Dr. Gemma Andaya. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's totally my honor. Such a pleasure.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Gemma, for joining us today. And dear listeners, before we get deep into the discussion today, I'll quickly love to introduce you, Dr. Gemma. So, Dr. Gemma is licensed psychotherapist, coach, and the founder of POJ Wellness, known for her trauma-informed integrative approach to healing and transformation. And in this conversation, dear listeners, we will explore the inner child healing, the role of rituals, and how we reconnect with ourselves in a way that helps both grounded and deeply meaningful. So, why to wait? Let's get started. Welcome to the show again, Dr. Gemma.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, the emperor for being here was actually from this book that I just published late last year. It's called Where Water Flows, and it's a book of love letters, rituals, and like journal poems. And it's meant to speak and bond and reparent the child within ourselves.
Amazing, amazing. So, I mean, before we get deeper into the layers, I'd love to start with like when you think about your own journey, what first made you realize that healing is not just the clinical part? It's all it's kind of deeply personal and even sacred as well.
Oh, it's a good question.
Mhm.
So, there's just been these hot topics of decolonizing oneself
Mm.
and kind of re-indigenizing oneself, getting back to our roots. At least that's the topic in America with the indigenous and native folks there. And so, in my own process of
Mm.
decolonizing and indigenizing, I found my way into sacred native circles with rituals um, and practices that used to be banned and actually illegal. Up until the 60s, these laws were lifted and these people could practice their traditions that are based on the earth elements and the seasons and the cycles of the earth rather
Mm.
than the Gregorian calendar that can be a little bit out of tune with respect to season and nature's call. Um, so I think that
Mm.
what I'm saying is that this process of connecting back to the earth and the earth's stewards, those that protect the waters, and that speak to the rocks as if they are our grandfathers because they've been here so long on this earth. They retain memory, retain
Mm.
when yeah, so it's like bonding with the element.
And if we talk about the misconception part also, like there's a very common belief that healing is something that you complete once you understand your past. But from your work, it feels like healing is more of an ongoing relationship. Like, so where do you see people misunderstanding this the most?
Mhm. Yeah. And if we reference back to the elements, it's like a drop of water can turn into a small stream that can eventually turn into a creek and in a river and eventually go to the ocean. And then
Mm.
from the ocean back to the sky into a cloud. And then the wind blows and those clouds start to rain elsewhere. And now we have a drip going on somewhere else. Like that is, you know, cyclical like that. And so we are made up of the elements. Um,
Yeah.
we, we are made up of all of these fine elements. And so our process of development and evolution is more of a spiral in that way. Source or rather than linear. Yes, thank you for addressing that.
Amazing, amazing. So, um, I mean, like, also, I'd say it's definitely really, really powerful. So instead of fixing ourselves, it's more about learning how to stay present with ourselves. So, what shifts when someone moves from that fixing mindset to a more compassionate one? So, what is it?
Mhm. Yeah, I think what you're speaking to is that shift from like
Hmm.
um, pathological like language
Hmm.
um, to something more organic, more self compassionate. And, that's why I wrote this book. It's about like healing the inner child, which is really just one of the many archetypes that live inside of us.
Hmm.
And there's this word in Spanish that some of like the curanderos use, the healers, and this medicine is called Susto, Susto, and it's
Hmm.
basically like it means Susto happens when we experience something really scary or unexpected, abrasive to our consciousness, and then all of a sudden there's a piece of it that's like fragmented, away from the whole. And so the process of hearing, like I don't think is focusing on those fragmented parts and judging them, and labeling them and shaming them. Like of course that's
Yeah.
not gonna. Well, the part that's gonna help them heal is like noticing they're fragmented, noticing we said operating from them, and then choosing to like bring them into the whole. And so the inner child that is one of those pieces in our earthly plane and experience, one of those parts that can be um, sabotaging our well being, actually. If we are feeling neglected, uh, they're feeling shamed, blamed, ignored, unsafe. Um, they can somewhat.
Very true. Very, very true. So, amazing. So, in terms of everyday life, the relationship, work, even moments of silence. So, where do you most often see this disconnection from the inner self showing up?
Huh. See, that's the tricky part because you have to have self awareness and be aware of it. So maybe the first step is to listen to the feedback from the environment. If we're getting the same feedback from many different places about our behavior, the way that we're impacting our environment, I think that's a huge sign for us to really look inward rather than place
Yeah.
on the outward and to take back feedback into consideration and do some analyzing, maybe some digging there. But if we already have that level of awareness, we sure don't need somebody to point it out for us. Then what can be indicative of a
Mhm.
disintegrated psyche or self is really strong emotional reactions to something that's happening in present day. And that reaction to that what's happening is out of proportion. So yes, something triggered us, someone triggered us, but the reaction that we're having is totally out of proportion to that. So that is the big indicator that we're now bringing this emotional charge that's undealt with, unresolved from like something in the past, and we're not conscious of it, and now we're projecting it into this present day scenario.
Exactly. Exactly. So, I mean, obviously, that it definitely resonates deeply because, especially in a world that rewards constant doing. So, uh, and if you talk about the approach part, your book where water flows introduces the rituals and the reflective practices. So, for someone who feels overwhelmed or maybe discontinued, what would be a simple way that they can begin connecting or reconnecting with themselves without overcomplicating it? What do you have to say?
Um, Connecting with themselves. You know, what's really beautiful about like the indigenous and native practices that I've been like a guest into and then to learn from these elders, these wisdom keepers, is that sometimes we get too caught up in self and we forget about all of these greater powers,
Hmm.
that are available to us for free. So actually, rather than like sitting at home doing this on your own, if I could give one piece of feedback and advice, it would be connect,
Hmm.
truly connect to some form of running water. If you are privileged enough to live by the ocean, a waterfall, a river, a creek, and if not, the water that we drink and really connecting with it, speaking some
Hmm.
words of gratitude, intention of like, I want to heal, please help
Hmm.
me. Water retains memory. It would encode memory. And so when we speak to it in this way, it actually changes like the on a molecular level, um, the water. And when we're then drinking this water, we're taking in that prayer in a sense that we put into the water. So that would actually be my recommendation.
Amazing. That's amazing. Healing is definitely not linear. So, there are days when old patterns resurface, even after a deep walk, also. So, how do you guide people to navigate those moments, kind of without feeling like they have gone backwards?
Yeah. Um, Now I'm going to talk a little bit clinical. It's nice to be able to dive in and out of these realms. I think as long as we can recognize that the frequency, the duration, and uh, the intensity of the episodes of regression or relapse are less and less and less, that's progress.
Hmm.
But if the episodes are still very frequently very intense, a lot of collateral damage when they do come, then yeah, what we're doing isn't working, and we probably should try something else. You know, that if we're seeing these space out, um, then I think yeah, recognizing zooming out and recognizing that they are spaced out is probably a good first step.
Okay. Wow. So, for someone listening right now who feels disconnected from themselves, maybe even a little lost also. So, what would you gently want to say to this kind of their inner child in that moment?
I would encourage this person that is struggling, feeling lost, um, to take just 5 minutes to put two hands on your body and tune in with the body and let it communicate to you because that's how we communicate with the inner child is through the body, not through the mind. So tuning in and scanning from
Mm.
head to toe and
Yeah.
see what is alive, where is there tightness, is there pulsing, is there aching, and then tuning in with that part of the body and
Mm.
Taking a moment to ask, how can I be of service to you? How can I help you? And speak to your body in the way that you would speak to your best friend, to a child, with love and compassion.
Mm. And before we wrap, like, if someone wants to connect with you, how they can connect?
You can go to tojwellness.com, and that's my website. And from there, you can be redirected to purchasing where water flows, or signing up for YouTube meditations for free, or signing up for my newsletter, which is the little communication about upcoming workshops, retreats. Uh, no social media for me. Off is the grid. No.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links and the details into the show notes, very easy for friends. And if this conversation started something within you, don't rush to move on from it. Just sit with it, reflect, and maybe even write a letter to the version of you that still needs your presence. And if this episode resonated, please share with someone who might need this reminder today. So, with this hope, this is your host, Avik, and this is Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. And remember that your healing doesn't have to be perfect, it has to be honest. So, thank you so much. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you.